Hello, welcome to another episode of Free Code Friday. This is Jason Bach. This is episode number 16, and today I'm going to do a little bit more work on this edit config generator that I've been working on for a while now. I've done some fairly big changes internally to what it does, primarily because this one style, qualification for method style, and what this style is looking for is if you write your method, in fact, this is good because I'm going to have to delete this code in a second. If you write your method invocation where you're using this, then you want this to be true. If you do it this way, then you want it to be false. But there's a couple of little gotchas that I found out. One of them is if you look at the syntax visualizer here, and this extended is an extension method. Well, you'll find this expression under the simple member access expression, which is also under the invocation expression. And that's what I'm looking for when I go here is I want to see, first of all, is this a simple member access expression? And then does it contain this expression? But I still have to be, there's one case I got to look for, which is if you are not an extension method, then that means yes, you want to do this. If you are, that means nothing because you have to qualify an extension method. You can't just write it, for example, if I come back here and just do that. That won't work. So actually it's going to tell me, yep. And it thinks I actually need to generate the method, which is not what I want. I want to do this. So that's one case that I got to be careful for. And what made it harder was to find out if a method is an extension method. You really can't do that from the syntax the syntax nodes, the syntax tree. You just don't have enough information to be able to do that. So, okay, fine. How do you do it then? Well, you need a semantic model. And that just started to snowball all over the code. And I had to figure out what's the best way to get a semantic model into these styles, because not all of them need it. Only a certain one or two or three or whatever will potentially use this one. I have the feeling that this one is also going to snowball, if I remember right with my notes here. The qualification, this is just for method, but it's going to probably be like the expression bodied ones. Well, I'll have a base class and then I'll have subclasses for those. But for now, I'm just doing this one. But I had to think about how do I get a semantic model into all of this, and it trickled all the way to the top because I have to be able to generate the semantic model for these things when needed. And furthermore, if you have a solution or you have a project file, there's a Buildalizer extensions project that allows you to, in fact, if I go with that, I'm getting these temp files too. I reported this to people within Microsoft that I'm sometimes seeing these and they don't go away, and I don't know why. I find it a little annoying. But here, you notice that I can get workspaces, and if I can get workspaces, I can get compilations, and then I can get models. The one off case is if I'm just going to do a document, then I have to generate a compilation on the fly and just guess that that's probably one that you're going to need as a metadata reference. I don't know anything else, and I wasn't going to try to be fancy to find something else out. So I do that, and then I pass the model in. And so all that's in place for that case where you have this method, this qualification, but you don't know if it's an extension method or not. The other one, though, I have to look at is if it's static, because if you come back here, I can't tell the difference between that, an instance call or a static call. And so I want to make sure that if you're doing this, then yes, that actually means you don't want to qualify. You don't want to put a this in front of the member. So in that case, I'll make it false. Okay. So that took some time. And then there was one that I found, which is funny, name of actually, you'd think if I did this, var t is equal to type of use it. Okay. Well, what you see when you go into the syntax visualizer is type of is a type of expression. Okay. Name of is not like a name of expression, though apparently that's the way it works in VB. It is an invocation expression. And the reason why, and this is a really dirty trick you can play on somebody, is you could do this. Okay. And now, well, what do I pass in here? Something like that. Well, now that's wrong. Okay, but this is still looking like an invocation expression. The point is, name of wasn't added until C#6, and it's possible somebody could have had a method called name of, and if there is, you have to honor that first. If there isn't, well, then it's still an invocation expression, but it's really not a method. And so what happens is, in this case here, I have to do the null conditional, because it may, if it's here, in this case, you will have a method, because you don't qualify this name of. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. I guess, though, now that I'm talking, if I did like a private void name of string x whatever, then fine, we'll make it string, and whoops, I hit my insert key. Name of, I'll just tell it to return the, jeez, I can't type, default of the string. Come on, there we go. Now this needs to be a string, but the point is that this is actually, this is good that I did this, because if in the case that this would ever happen, I would want to okay, cool. So there is the possibility that I need to, if this came back and said it's null or something like that. So the point is, with name of, it does throw a little bit of a wrench in, but I was able to get around that. Okay, so there are a couple of odd cases that I had to consider. But I got it all working. If I, whoops, switch that over. If I run this, what you should see is it takes now a little bit of time, because it's getting solution workspace compilation stuff, and I gotta add some stuff in here so I can see where things are taking some time here. But once you get going, that's not too bad, and you can see now I've got my little qualification for method is true, and that's good, because typically I do use this. So that's another one. Another thing I want to do here is try to get some tests around stuff. I've been refactoring, regenerating, moving crap around, and I think some stuff probably got lost in the mix. So, which one do I want to copy? Fine. Probably would be the wrong mistake. Wrong thing to do, but that's okay. Come over here and say that's tests. And let's start writing tests for this, because I don't want to lose that. So create with custom severity. Let's do that. And just say anywhere in this document where I'm doing that. I've changed to the dark look. And one thing you may notice is that my font on the some of the UI elements is a little bit bigger than normal. I used to use the productivity power tools, or power productivity tools, or whatever they're called. And I use it because it had a presenter on and off mode, which is great when I was presenting, because not only does the present on mode make your font in your code editor bigger, but it also made the fonts for UI elements bigger, which is awesome. I personally get riled a little bit when I see a speaker doing a talk and they leave their font as like 10 or 12 point, you gotta bump it up. 16 doesn't even cut it anymore, like 20 or 24 when I've been doing talks now. Gotta make it really, really high. But that style made it easy. But there was some bug with it that for some reason I got it into this state where I couldn't turn it off. But now I've got my fonts bigger for some of my UI elements. So I don't know. Maybe someday I'm going to just have to do a reset and get the styling all back to at least the norm. And I really haven't done any customization in a long time with keystrokes or key bindings or anything like that. So in any event, I do usually like the dark style when I'm coding, but I also have been doing a fair amount of speaking, so I also sometimes just leave it in the light mode because on a projector, unless the projector is really, really good and really bright, dark modes just do not look well at all. I'm sorry, they don't look good at all. Well, whatever. It sucks. So the light mode usually is the one that will just work much better for projectors than dark. That's just my experience. All right, so anyway, let's put this here. And change that. Change that. I also just did a live coding thing with Jeff Fritz, who's a Microsoft fellow, and it was pretty interesting. We did like a 2-hour thing on writing an analyzer. We were also trying to use live share, which quite frankly didn't work as well as I think either one of us were expecting. It was okay, it was interesting, but it just wasn't quite stable yet, but which I'm okay with. It's a preview thing. It's not perfect, and it definitely needs some polish. But the idea is really, really cool, and it was fun to just basically paste code in, and boom, it's right in his editor, and you can move on. It was also a good demonstration that I had written the analyzers just to make sure I could do them. And the intent was to have Jeff do as much of it as possible, but there was like a couple times where if you watch the video where he says, why don't you just copy the code in or write the code? And I was like, well, I got it over here, so I'm just going to copy and paste it. And that's essentially what I was doing a lot. And I think I even said in the video that, you know, this shows that you always need a plan B, and that was very, very true. One of the things I try to tell, you know, and maybe I'll do a video on this in terms of things that I've learned doing presentations and speaking at conferences and whatnot, things that I've tried to focus on and make sure that I do in each of my talks. And one of them is this idea kind of that Henry Rollins, of all people, said that when you're on stage, you have to act like nothing can go wrong, or nothing. I guess you could also say it as like nothing has gone wrong. The show must go on. You always must be able to go. And one of the things I equate it with is go up on stage and act like your computer just burst into fire, and nobody in the audience is going to give you their computer. It's essentially, you have nothing. You can't project anything. You know, you have to just use your voice, your hands, and go. Could you do it? Would it terrify me? Absolutely, it would terrify me. I think it would terrify a lot of people, but you know, especially if you're at a conference, like when I speak at VS Live, I get paid to do that. Not a lot of conferences that I've talked to, they'll pay for maybe like your hotel rooms. Maybe they'll pay for your travel, but you know, to get the money for speaking like VS Live does is at least rare in my experience. And so there's an expectation that you really have to be on your game, and you got to make sure that you're doing the best that you can for these people that, okay, maybe they're not spending the money, but their employer is. And you should realize that and make sure that you're giving your best performance. And quite frankly, you should do that all the time anyway, but that's kind of the level, I think, is expected when you're doing a presentation for a conference like that. And You should just be ready to go with nothing working. And do you have your slides in your head down enough that you could go, okay, this is what I was talking about. And now, and with a lot of conferences, you usually, have your slides online. Make sure your slide deck is online, or if you're not using slides, fine, but have notes, have something that your audience could follow in case you're up there and everything falls apart. And if you're going to do a talk, you're going completely blind. Scott Guthrie, and I'd like to do this one time, is just do this as an idea, is go up there and say, okay, you've got me for an hour, whatever it is. What do you want to ask me? Live Q&A, I guess is what you call it. And he'll solicit questions for the audience for about 10 minutes or so, and then writes them all down, and then he categorizes them and pushes them up to the top or whatever, and then he'll start going one by one. Now, you really gotta, I think, have a lot of experience in speaking to do that, and that's also something that I think would terrify me. That's why I want to do it. I want to see how well or how not so well I would do with a model like that. But that has nothing. So you don't have notes. You don't have nothing. But the whole point is that you're just doing it from the get-go. So there's nothing for people to follow. If you're doing a typical presentation at a conference, you should have some material there for the audience members so they can go. I usually, in my slide deck, last slide in the notes section, I always list a bunch of references so people can, go off on their own time and dive deeper into whatever I've talked about. Yeah, but you should always go up like nothing will ever fail, nothing will ever go wrong. And there's actually an example where I did a talk once in Boston, and about 5 minutes into the talk, long story short, I accidentally deleted all my code for that presentation that I was going to do a lot of demos with. And for just the briefest moment, I panicked massively. And for some reason in my brain, just kicked into defensive mode and said, okay, what can you do? What can you do? What can you do? And I remembered, thankfully, rather quickly that I had a zip file. Again, this was like years ago before GitHub and Cloud and all that other stuff. So I had a backup. So I said, you know what? I just deleted all my code. Let me unzip it. And it was going to take a while because it was a fair amount. I said, let me just, decompress it. We'll put it back here. So I'll let it go off and do this. And while it's doing that, let me talk a little bit more about what's going on here. Don't do dead air. I've seen people when they're on stage and they're doing something that's the most boring thing you could ever do on stage is keep them engaged. Even what I'm doing right now with this, when I'm just moving around and I'm trying to keep a conversation going, even though it's one-sided. Trying to keep the audience engaged and talk about what I'm doing and what the code is that's currently on screen and all that other stuff. Don't have dead air. Keep talking as much as you can. Not just to have word salad going on. You want to have effective communication, but there's this uncomfortableness that I think people have where people are not talking. You don't know if they're failing. You don't know what they're doing. And even if you're saying, okay, give me a sec. I'm trying to figure this out. Hold on. Just whatever. I don't know. Just try to find a way to fill that dead air. Okay. Plan B. So always have a plan B. Always have backup files, something out in the cloud, whatever. Make sure that you're always trying to find a way to keep the conversation going. And so I was glad that I had written those analyzers so that we could keep talking and I could make it easier. I could just copy and paste a whole bunch of code in rather than trying to write it and go, oh, well, is that going to work or not? I don't know. So anyway, what am I trying to do here? Okay, so I want... Where am I at? What I need to do is do something where I'm doing this. Okay. And fudge. This is going to be a different one because I need to parse it, and then I need to find a specific invocation expression. But that should be easy because with all these examples, I'll just have one, so it's not like it's going to be a big deal. Okay, so let's do that. Over here. And then we'll have a public void bar. And then a public... Oh, well, okay, fine. I'll have two. Baz. And in that one, what I'm going to do is just invoke. I guess I could do it because, again, this code is not going to run. So I guess I could do it recursively, right? I don't even need another method here. I could just say bar this.bar. And sure, you would never really want to do this in real code, but that doesn't matter. I'm just trying to do something to make my test work. All right, so I got the compilation unit. And now I need to get the node, the invocation expression node, and I need to get a model. So what I think I'm going to need is a private static invocation expression syntax node and a semantic model get information, for lack of a better term, and this will be a compilation unit syntax unit. All right, so I want to have this here as kind of a helper thing. So do I have... No, I don't have to name these, do I? No. Because I'm going to name them down here. Okay, so that's fine. Tuples. Okay, so... Oh, and I need to know what the name of the thing is I'm looking for. So var invocation is going to be unit to set the nodes where, get my link, I can't think of it. Why can't I think of it? Identifier. Should be an identifier, right? Why can't... Okay, what am I... How do... Oh. Of type. Invocation. Expression syntax. What I really want, I guess what I really need to do is if I come here, yeah, simple member does not have name. Why is this so hard? Seriously, what? I've seen this before with toString or get text, you know, because reasons like goes cute. I don't know. You can't compare that, right? Yeah, so get text is source text. Wonderful. And it's not really what my hoodie is in. Wait, I want the hoodie there. Never mind that. Get text. Why don't you just let me get subtext? There's probably, if you talk to anybody in the compiler team, they're going to be like, well, there's reasons why you got to do this. And I'll be like, yes, I'm sure there are. And I can't figure out why. I just want the name of the damn thing. Where toString contains. Okay, why don't you have that? Oh, I have to do that. Okay, so contains method name, because I think it would actually have this dot and whatever. I just want to say, because these examples will be simple, these aren't meant to be like all-encompassing awesome stuff. I just want to get the invocation node. Let's just do first. Good. Okay, so I got the invocation. Now I need to go over here and copy some code. This is that little shimmy stuff that I talked about before. Just do that. I guess I could... Nah, just do this. Do this for now. That gets me that. That gets me that. And that gets me that. And then I can return invocation and model. There. So now I can come down here and say var node model is equal to .NET's tests. Get information based off of my statement, which was really my unit. So let's call what it really is. Okay, cool. So now here I have to do a new bat where I'm passing in my node and my model. Okay, what to, oh, I gotta give the name. Bar. There. Easy. So this, what the hell am I actually doing here? Update with instant method qualified with this. So this is a true occurrence. I actually did get an occurrence, and this is a true occurrence. That's what I'm expecting. Okay. So let's delete all the rest of these. I just want to get down to the one with the diagnostics. How do I do this? How do I do this? How do I do this? Let's do that. And let's... Would that actually do it? Let's try that. I'm here. That's an invocation expression. Now let's take that off. And I don't know, is that the invocation? It says it doesn't have diagnostics, so this might be some playing around with to go, how do I do this? Because I want that to be bad. Alright, let's see what fails. You see, this shows you how old I am because I'm expecting something to fail off the gate. Yep, and one did. Okay, which was update with diagnosis. So this actually worked. Well, okay, that was actually the better one. All right, cool. Where am I on time? 29 already. I'm already there. Oh my god. All right, so we have not qualified with this. And now I should have a false occurrence. Okay. There's another case. The other cases are if I'm using, a simple member access expression, but not, yes. Okay. update with instance method qualified with variable name. Now what am I getting at with this? Var x is equal to blah, and oh, I gotta, because I'm not actually in code, I'm making code. Whatever. 42 x dot toString. So that's what I'm looking for here, is the toString. And this actually ends up becoming, it is a simple member access, but it doesn't have a this. So we shouldn't get anything because this is just not a thing we care about. Okay. And then we have to handle the case where it is this, but it is an extension method. So let's update with instance with extension method. That's pretty easy. And we can do that by public static void call foo this foo this, and then in my bar method is where I say this dot call me, call foo. Foo. Okay, because in this case I need to find call foo, and this won't be a case. It just doesn't qualify. And then the other one that we have to be careful of is, we already got the false case up here, but we need to do a one with a static method. So update with static method. Yes. Yeah, and I think there's a static, update with static method with class name. And then there's one without the class name, because the class name one would give you, like in this case here, it's still a simple member access expression. It should be, but the identifier name is the class name, so I gotta have a test for that one too. Okay, so update with static with class name. So in this case, we'll give foo public static void call me. It's a Friday. It literally is a Friday night that I'm doing this one. So foo.callme. There. Okay. So now we do call me, and this one just doesn't count because we don't care. Cool. And then, but the other path I got to do is update with static method that does not use the class name. And in this case, it would be this, but that's okay. We'll run all these. Let's see what happens. Should still get one failing, right? One failed, and it's still updated with diagnostics. Cool, that's actually good because I just have to figure out how to make this thing fail bad. Let's do that. Would that actually work? Yep. God, I don't know what that face is going to look like. Awesome, that's cool. So I think for this episode I'm going to just do... Yeah, I forgot to check in my own stuff. Reworked model passing and added tests for... Whoops, not tests for the tests. Push. Okay, so what I need to do, here's the plan. So what I need to do in my next video is there's still a couple tests for a couple of classes that I added that I haven't actually put tests around yet, and so I want to do that. But then I'm going to switch gears. I'm going to jump into a completely different project because that project is something that I want to use for a presentation that I'm doing on WebAssembly and Blazor. Blazor is actually starting to get some big traction with its preview stuff, and I think I can actually put together a decent demo. So what I want to do is take an old game that I wrote. It's all in WinForms. And this is one of the things I wanted to do for this channel anyway, which is just go through and say, how do you take this app that's a WinForms app written for God knows what version of the .NET framework, update it all, put an editor config on it. It has a lot of tests, which is good, but make it all .NET standard. Keep the UI WinForms for now. Don't want to change that, but then see if I can actually create a new client for it using WebAssembly. That will be interesting because I suck at UI design. So we'll see if I can do that, but that's what I want to switch to next. So I'm going to stop this recording for now, and that's what we're going to do next time. Thank you for watching. Comments, questions, you know where to put them. See you next time.